I'm not gonna touch you, Bill.
Please don't hurt me.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Sky Webb and I'm here to talk about a true crime story that I cannot get off my mind. But before I get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer.
They mean no harm to any of the victims or the victims' families, and I wish everyone who was hurt within this story that most peace and solace either in rest or in recovery.
With that out of the way, happy True Crime Thursday. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope you enjoy it enough to like, comment and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Now I need to let you guys know that today's true crime video is a little bit different to the videos I usually do, as it's actually completely unresolved, and for once it doesn't involve murder. Don't let that discourage you though, because this story is still completely fucking bonkers, but it's about child grooming. Unless today's your first day on the internet, I'm sure you know who this video is about. It is about the one and only fucking Onision. Before we completely delve into the madness that is Onision, I just want to let you guys know that everything I'm about to say is purely speculation. It's all allegations, nothing has been proven, and a lot of what I'm saying is just stuff that I've collected throughout the internet and isn't my own opinion. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm not telling you whether it's true or false. It's just what's out there in one. Okay, cool, thanks. So a little rundown of Onision. Onision's real name is Gregory Jackson, aka James Jackson, aka Onion Boy, aka Mr. Onion.
Mr. Onion Boy!
Onision is a 34-year-old YouTuber, most widely known for his weird and controversial comedy skits, as well as his full-on online trolling, and as of recently, his child grooming and abuse allegations. It's worth noting that Onion Boy has been on YouTube since 2006, so it would be almost impossible to cover every single controversy that he's had because there's been a lot of them, but I'm gonna do my best, so just bear with me. So Onision's content was always a little bit too weird for my liking, for my taste.
Hi guys! Hi guys!
Hey!
Are you ready to have fun?
But a lot of it was just comedy skits, comedy sketches. There was lots of controversial commentary videos. That's what got him the biggest reaction. Obviously, if you hate it, you're gonna share it. If you love it, you're gonna share it. That's what he enjoys. But there was also a string of videos that got a lot of attention where he would basically have his online followers send in photos of themselves for him to rate out of 10 and critique. Now the problem with this is that a lot of his following are underage girls, and so he would get a lot of photos from underage girls in bikinis and underwear and just not a lot of clothing, which is pretty inappropriate when they're sending it to an older man. And that'd be fine if Onision had appropriate comments to make, but he often didn't. He would often be actually really quite harsh in what he would say. He would tell girls to fix things about themselves that is impossible to fix unless you go get surgery. He would make comments about underage girls' boobs and hips and womanly features, which obviously aren't developed yet, which is
Disgusting!
And he was often seen making really inappropriate comments, calling underage girls hot or sexy, or telling them how they could be hotter or sexier, and it was a little weird.
Girls like 8 out of 10? Yeah, solid 8.
But Greg, what if she's 15 years old?
Well, last time I checked, we're allowed to have opinions about people. It's not a perverted thing, it's honesty.
As I mentioned, he would also do a lot of trolling and make a lot of controversial videos. So a lot of his controversial videos would be about things like religion and abortion and sexual assault, although I'm really not sure how he managed to make that a controversial topic. Most people can agree sexual assault is bad.
Rape isn't funny. Not even if a 7-foot-tall man walked in this room, bit me over this desk, and started pounding my butt right in front of you guys. It still wouldn't be hilarious. If I was like, that would not be funny.
A lot of the time he would go so far as to combine these controversial topics with his comedy skits. And so in one instance, he would actually do a comedy skit about sexual assault where he would pretend to sexually assault a bear. But that little teddy stuffed animal was supposed to represent a real person, and it would like be pushed away as though it was trying to escape, and then he'd yank it right back there to continue to sexually assault. Which is, first of all, fucking bizarre. Second of all, completely inappropriate, because it's inappropriate in itself, in my opinion, but like, I can give you some leeway for your own weird comedy, but the fact that it was representing a person, weird. In his defense, he said that because the person that it was representing was on good terms with him, it was fine. Most of the internet didn't agree with that though. He also likes to call out women that he has beef with. And there's a lot of women that he has beef with because he doesn't really like women. Onision does not get along with women. On more than one occasion, he's been known to call out women for their mental illnesses, either exposing them for having mental illnesses, making fun of them for it, or outright blaming them for having their own mental illnesses. He also once claimed that an ex-girlfriend of his had slept with over 20 people, which, first of all, shouldn't be putting that information out there for the world to know. Like, that's not your business or anyone else's business. But on top of that, he said that this girl, who had slept with 20 people before, couldn't possibly... He claimed that this person couldn't possibly be sexually assaulted because of those 20 people. As if her prior consent had anything to do with future consent. And it's these sort of things that makes me personally question whether or not he's serious or whether or not he's just a fucking troll. Like, that to me seems like a whole huge elaborate troll in really poor taste, don't get me wrong, but how could you possibly think like that? And he said this after she had actually accused him of being a little too rough and a little bit too forceful, and so basically that was his defense.
How could you possibly be assaulted when you've already slept with that amount of people?
Obviously, sexual assault has nothing to do with prior consent. It has to do with the lack of consent, which, again, has nothing to do with happened previously in other partnerships. And this also came after a very public breakup. You literally look like you're so high right now. Onision is known to publicly shame his girlfriends, and not one but two of his wives as well. He's often used his following as like a way to shift the power dynamics in their relationships. He would use it as a manipulation tool, like, do what I say, do what I want, otherwise I'll expose you, or stop crying, or I'll film you and I'll expose you. So a lot of the people in his lives were sort of afraid to do certain things because it meant that their secrets or things that they've told him in confidence could be shared for everyone to see. He also liked to film a lot of arguments and meltdowns between him and his girlfriends, and he would post those online as well. One girl in particular, Shiloh, he would film her while she was having medical emergencies, while she was having memory loss and seizures, and as I said, breakdowns and panic attacks, things that just should never be filmed.
I'm not.
Give it to me. Give me your hand.
I am.
We filmed this.
Oh God! What is going on?
This is you. Look at it. That's you right there. That's you, and that's me. That's you, and see, there's you.
I look like I'm on drugs.
And you can hear her clearly saying, get the camera off me, get the camera off me, and he refused.
Get the camera off of me, I swear to God. He has a camera on me. Why do you have a camera on me?
Okay, thank you.
Get the camera off of me.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Get the camera off of me.
And what has changed since the cops came out here last night?
She threatened to kill herself in between that time.
Okay.
And she got hysterical, and
What did she say?
she said that she said I was on the phone with my Aunt Kelly and she threatened to kill herself, and then I threatened to call the cops, and she said that she was... What did you say exactly? You said it. You said something. You said you were going to make it look really bad or something.
Did you threaten to kill yourself, young lady?
I did.
You did?
I
How
don't really deny that.
How come? That's not the... Those aren't the statements of the reason.
Throughout the years, we've definitely seen the way he emotionally manipulates and abuses a lot of his girlfriends, and in particular, his wife, who was previously known as Lainey, now known as Kai. So Kai, who was previously known as Lainey, they transitioned into a male and transitioned into Kai, and that's only worth noting because it was all done in the public eye. So a lot of the controversies and allegations came from when Kai was known as Lainey. I don't want to be disrespectful and use the wrong names or pronouns or anything, but I think the best way for this to make sense to people who don't already know the story is to just refer to Kai as Lainey when Lainey was referred to as Lainey, if that makes sense. When these allegations happened, I'm just going to be referring to them as Lainey, and that's because a lot of the allegations involve a lesbian relationship, which at the time she was female and therefore lesbian, which now obviously isn't. Just trying to make it make sense. I'm sorry, I really am not trying to offend anybody. Now, there's a fair bit of controversy surrounding Kai as well, because a lot of people do view Kai as being the victim and being someone who was manipulated and abused emotionally and, you know, under Onision's control to an extent. But a lot of people do feel as though Kai is just as guilty as Onision and is also toxic and abusive themselves. And the reason for this is they feel as though Kai sort of began the grooming process and got them comfortable and, you know, developed a relationship before then introducing Onision. So Kai and Onision met when Kai was 17 years old, and they actually ended up getting married in 2012. They went on to have 2 children, Troy and Chloe, and for the most part those kids have been kept out of the public eye up until recently, where there was an incident involving Chloe, Onision's daughter, and that caused her to be in the public eye because everyone was worried about her well-being. So Onision's 2-year-old Chloe, she managed to climb up to a window on the 2nd story of their house. She leant against the fly screen and unfortunately she fell out. So she actually fell from the 2nd story onto a concrete driveway. Now at the time, Kai was in the kitchen making dinner and Onision was in his garage, most likely making some weird videos. Kai does claim that he put Chloe into the bedroom to watch TV and that the window was actually shut and locked. The police, however, suspect that it wasn't locked, nor was it even closed, because it doesn't seem likely that a 2-year-old would be able to climb up to the window, unlock the window, and then figure out how to open it enough for them to then fall out without anyone noticing. Now, no one was even aware of the child falling from the window until moments after the incident happened, and this is because Onision claimed he heard tapping on the outside of the garage. He claimed that he thought it was his son, like, playing outside, and he was like, how the fuck did he get out there? So he went through the house, went to go outside to check on him, saw that the son was inside, and so freaked out, was like, what the fuck? And then found Chloe on the concrete. This doesn't sit well with a lot of people, because if that's the case, it means that Chloe's fallen, hit the ground, then had to crawl over to the garage to then tap to get someone's attention. That's how badly unattended she was. That's how unaware they were of the situation. And that also means that somehow Onision didn't hear her crying or screaming out the window, didn't hear her land, and didn't hear her crying in pain after she had landed, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So Onision talked to 911 on the phone while Kai comforted their daughter, and then Onision picked up a video camera and began to film the incident. So he actually filmed Chloe on the ground crying and screaming, and then panned up to the window to show where she had fell from, and just basically filmed the surrounding and the scene. And police thought that this was really, really strange, so they actually questioned him about this, and he said,
well, I've had experiences in the past where people said that I told them to do certain things and I didn't, so I wanted to film it. And also I was afraid that she might have hit her head on one of these landscaping rocks next to the driveway, so I wanted to show the doctor.
And people thought that this was really, really peculiar, because obviously when your daughter's screaming in pain, she had quite significant injuries, you wouldn't pick up a fucking camera, you would just comfort your daughter. So this began to arouse a lot of suspicion, and a lot of people speculated that that wasn't true at all, and that they had actually done all these weird things because they were trying to cover up their own negligence, because they felt like obviously the window hadn't have been locked, hadn't have been closed, she couldn't have fallen out, she was left alone, they didn't hear her, she could have been sitting there for ages before they found her, and it's just a weird situation. In the end, his daughter suffered from multiple skull fractures, brain bleeding and brain bruising, and part of her skull had actually been like indented into her brain, which could cause a lot of future issues and problems that could potentially be life-threatening. So everyone was really worried about this girl's well-being, as am I. I really hope that she's okay, and I hope that there isn't any like neglectful shit going on. I hope it was just a horrible accident, because that's really fucking horrible. Anyway, back to Kai's controversy. So back in 2014, Kai was known as Lainey. So during this period, I'm just going to refer to them as Lainey. I'm sorry, I'm not being disrespectful, please believe me. It's so confusing, the timeline. In 2014, Lainey met a girl online called Sarah, and Sarah was only 14 at the time while Lainey was 19. And they started talking and tweeting back and forth, and Sarah was a huge fan of Onision. Just keep this in mind, because in the next year, in 2015, there was like an incident that happened, a whole drama that happened, which I'll get into in a minute. And during that time, Sarah was like a pillar of strength for Lainey. They had a really strong friendship, and Lainey sort of turned to this young girl to vent to and for emotional support and for advice. So then in 2015, Lainey started talking to a girl called Billie. Now, up until that point, it was assumed that Lainey was a straight female, as she was married to Onision. But she then came out saying that she was bi, and this is something that Onision very heavily encouraged and pushed, and he wanted her to have intimate relationships with other females. And at the time, Lainey acted as though that's what she wanted as well. But now in hindsight, as Kai says that he never wanted that, and that was all Onision, and it was Onision who pushed that to begin with. Regardless, Lainey and Billie started dating. Then when Billie flew out to see them, Billie and Onision slept together, meaning Onision cheated on his wife by sleeping with Billie, and Billie cheated on her girlfriend by sleeping with Onision. And Onision turned around and said that it was all Billie's fault.
You cheated on my wife.
Despite him also cheating on his wife. And at this point, all three of them broke up. Onision and Lainey broke up, and Lainey and Billie broke up. So they all split. And this is the point where Lainey turned to Sarah for emotional support and advice and friendship. It's also worth noting that after this happened, text messages were leaked between Billie and Onision, where Onision is very clearly emotionally abusing Billie and giving her just really unrealistic ultimatums, saying that if you want to be forgiven, you need to get liar tattooed on your leg, or you need to be chained to the wall in my basement with a plaque calling you a liar for a week. Like, just really, really wacky things that obviously no one would ever fucking do. And if he genuinely made her do that, he would be a psychopath. From this point, things seemed to escalate between Sarah and Lainey online, and they started to tweet some really inappropriate things. Sarah would tweet things like, "I'm jailbait." She would retweet things basically insinuating that like underage sex is cool. They would both hype each other up over social media. They'd hype each other's photos up, and they would just post a lot of things that would basically insinuate that there was some sort of romantic relationship between them, or at the very least, that there was a sexual attraction of some kind. Lainey even tweeted to Sarah saying, "I'm grooming you nicely," which, if it is a joke, it's in very poor taste due to the age difference, but anyway. So then Lainey asked Sarah to come and visit her and Onision and come to their baby shower. They were having a baby shower. And so Sarah did this, and then from this point, she actually stayed with them quite a lot. She lived with them periodically, and they adapted like a guardianship role over her because she had a really poor family life at the time. And the timeline again is just a little bit confusing, so I'll actually post like a screenshot of a timeline that Sarah made herself trying to explain the situation. At the time that this was all going on, Sarah said that there was no child grooming, there was no issues, they weren't doing anything wrong, she was in good hands, like everything was appropriate, everything was legal, there was no sexual contact, there was no relationship in that way, and she just defended everything. And at the time, people didn't believe her. They knew that she was young, they knew that they had this previous relationship with Billie, which didn't really pan out very well, so people thought that this was really weird. And so Sarah actually went to the extent of making a whole video about it and just saying like, everything is fine, nothing's going wrong, this is my fault. She started to feel responsible for the negative backlash, and since then text messages have been exposed between Sarah and Onision, where it's very obvious that Onision is pressuring her into making the video to begin with, and he's telling her that basically it's her fault, it's her responsibility, and she needs to stop it, she needs to put an end to it, because if she doesn't, Kai is gonna have to live with this backlash forever, and basically put all of the responsibility onto Sarah, who is still a child. Sarah has recently come forward with allegations claiming that there was in fact a child grooming situation going on, claiming that Onision heavily encouraged her and Lainey to be intimate with each other, especially in front of him. He would pressure them into kissing in front of him and things along those lines. And she basically just claimed that he took advantage of her young age and her inexperience, and looking back in hindsight, it was wrong and it wasn't legal because it was child grooming. She was underage. And she had a romantic relationship with these people who were of age. She even claimed that Lainey at the time had sent her naked photos while she was still underage. Then when Sarah turned 18, her, Onision, and Lainey all had sex together pretty much a week after she had turned 18. So immediately after she turned 18. Sounds like child grooming to me, personally. At this point, he asked her to date him, which previously the agreement had been that, Lainey and Sarah would date, and then Lainey and Onision would be married. Now he wanted that to change, and he wanted to date Sarah as well. And then the morning after they all had sex, he actually made Sarah sign an NDA so that she couldn't talk about having sex with them to anyone. Then shortly after this, on her very next visit, Onision had sex with her, just them two alone, and then broke up with her for good. Threw her out to the wolves, didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Now, of course, Onision had his own version of events, but I would take everything he says with a grain of salt. He said that really what happened is that Sarah is the one who wanted to have sex, and Sarah actually pressured him and Kai into having sex, saying that she said she would only sign an NDA if they had sex, which he felt like needed to happen because he didn't want her to come out with fake allegations or, come out with his personal information. So he had to have sex with this girl who previously was in his care and is over 10 years younger than him. He felt pressured by her, according to him. Now, this isn't the only child grooming allegation, and I'll get into the next one in just a minute, but I just want to add a couple of things here that on their own are just that's kind of weird, but when it's all together, it's you're a weird person. It's not just a weird instance, you're a weird fucking person. So at one point, a toddler was left in Onision's care, and this little girl had basically
poops themselves.
And Onision texted the mum and was like,
"Hey, your kid pooped themselves, but I'm not changing their diaper."
And obviously the mum was like, "Why not? Can you please change my daughter's nappy? Otherwise she's gonna get a rash, she's gonna get, shit, it's shit in her fucking pants, change the fucking nappy." And he basically came back and said,
"No, it's inappropriate, she's a girl and I'm a grown man and I can't be doing that. In this day and age, in the internet's day and age, they'll take it out of context and they'll escalate it and it'll get twisted into something that it's not."
And just a lot of excuses.
Additionally, I don't feel comfortable changing other people's little girls. The little girl poos into her front part. So you have to take a wipe and you have to actually be very thorough in cleaning all of that out. This okay, gets in your vagina. So I didn't want to clean the out of another woman's baby's vagina.
Most normal people wouldn't even have that thought. That's not a correlation. Obviously, if a toddler is in your care, you need to change their nappy. That's part of caring for them. It's neglect if you don't, because they can't do it themselves. They need to be changed. That's part of your job. And it would be different if it was a 6-year-old needing a bath. Maybe then you'd be like, okay, no, that's inappropriate. I'll get someone else to do it, or I'll wait. They can wait. But a nappy, you have to change a nappy, dude. He's also come out and made a lot of statements about 18 and 19-year-old girls basically being at their prime breeding age, and said that it's not weird for men to lust after girls this age. And he's even gone so far as to say that when people are grossed out by old men preying on teenagers, both of age and underage. It's basically just a bunch of social warrior justice bullshit, and it's not real. Which, like, no, Onion Boy, it's illegal. We're allowed to be creeped out when old men like young girls. Like, that's gross. There's a reason it's illegal. Now back to the child grooming. After Sarah came out about her case, another girl named Shiloh, she came out about her own story. And this is the girl that I mentioned earlier who unfortunately had like their meltdown filmed by Onision.
Get the camera off of me, I swear to God.
So Shiloh is a Canadian singer. She basically sounds like No Doubt, actually, to be honest. And she dated Onision in 2011. She featured on his channel a fair bit, so people did know that they dated. A lot of details about the relationship was already out in the open, out in the public. And this was actually the first sort of case of like child grooming, as obviously it was in 2011. I'm sorry I'm working backwards, but I'm working by like when the allegations came out, if that makes sense. So basically, Shiloh and Onision started talking because Shiloh was a huge fan of his, like most of the girls in this story were, and they started to Skype each other. So they would Skype back and forth and just talk for hours and hours and hours while Onision's first wife was actually in the background just like going about her day doing her chores, which is a really weird scenario, to be honest. In 2010, so a year previous to when they started dating, they would Skype each other, and Onision actually showed her fake divorce papers. So this is something he has a habit of doing, where he'll make up fake contracts and fake divorce papers and like show them online, and it's a bunch of bullshit. It's just like a prop.
You see that?
She then claims that he Googled and researched consent laws before coming to visit her to make sure that he could have sex with her legally. She claims that when they did finally meet for the first time, they had sex pretty much immediately, and the first words he said out of the whole time that they've ever met was, "I can't wait to get you pregnant." No, hi, how are ya? Nice to meet ya, I love you. No, I can't wait to get you pregnant. She says that police were actually notified about them being in a hotel, and they came and checked up on them and asked Onision to leave because he had a lot of like camera equipment and they were afraid that he would film her. And all of these allegations came out in like a string of tweets, by the way. So then she also listed like a number of ways that he emotionally abused her. He told her that they would get each other's names tattooed, so she went and got Gregory, and instead he got Remember Love tattooed rather than her name. So she was like, fuck you. She was still 17, by the way, at this point, with his name tattooed on her body. He also did really degrading things. Allegedly, he shaved her head during sex as a way to degrade her, and she was basically just like crying. He would also dress her up in boys' clothes a lot of the time, liked her head to be shaved, liked her to look like a man and just feel degraded and feel like horrible about herself. And he even gave her a list of rules that she had to abide by if she wanted to stay his girlfriend. This included not wearing bras, not wearing makeup, not seeing family, not seeing friends. She had to wear boys' clothes only. She had to share all of her passwords with him for everything, and she couldn't eat meat. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Shiloh often got filmed having meltdowns and breakdowns, and the one particular video that went viral was after he had refused to let her call her mum. So basically she wanted to call her mum and get picked up, and he refused to let her contact her. So she started crying, having a meltdown, having a panic attack, and she threatened to kill herself. And unfortunately, this happened while he was on the phone to police. So as a result of that, she had to be taken away and spent time in a mental facility, which she claims was just pretty fucking awful. And she was only 18 years old. She then claims that she fell pregnant, but the pregnancy wasn't viable, and so she needed like medical health care, and Onision refused to pay for it for her, for their child, or lack of a child. And so she actually had to go back to Canada in order to get this very necessary healthcare. While she was gone, he posted a video to YouTube called By Shiloh, and he publicly broke up with her and called her a liar. So in case you're having trouble keeping up, I know this is a bit of a mess. That is now 3 girls that have alleged he groomed them. That's Billie, Sarah, and Shiloh. And I'm not a drama channel, so I care a lot less about the controversies stories in between than I do about the actual crimes committed. And I'm not the only one. Another person who is very heavily influenced the world of true crime on YouTube and the internet is Chris Hansen. So he's the host of Dateline, Hansen vs Predator, How to Catch a Predator, and Crime Watch Daily, like hello, so he's very well known. And even he has gotten involved in the Onision saga. He started interviewing a lot of Onision's victims, and he tried to reach out to Onision and interview him, which Onision said no. Onision likes to request money if anyone wants to interview him, because he thinks that his time is so valuable that he'll request thousands and thousands of dollars to be interviewed. This led to Chris Hansen actually showing up at Onision's house with the film crew and basically confronting him the same way he would in How to Catch a Predator. And he knocked on the door and basically just said, I want to talk, I want to give you a chance to explain your side of the story, explain yourself, tell us what's going on, we want to hear your side. He was trying to be fairly fair in this situation. And this led to Onision picking up the phone and dialing 911. He called the police on Chris Hansen. And basically he called Chris Hansen a stalker, an internet online stalker.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, there's a person who's been stalking me online and they just showed up to my house.
Okay, and they're outside now?
Yes, they're knocking on my door.
Okay. And do you know if they have any weapons?
They have a bunch of camera people, like they're YouTube stalkers.
Okay. But no weapons seen?
I didn't see any weapons. I just saw like 6 guys in my driveway, and one of them is knocking on my door.
And the one that's knocking on your door, is he the main one that you said has been stalking you?
Yes, he's a stalker. He's yelling things at me through the door right now.
We can see that that was a huge exaggeration on Onision's part. Anyway, they sort of were like, Chris Hansen, like the Chris Hansen, the one that works with the FBI, Chris Hansen. And it was very awkward for Onision. He even called up a second time because responders hadn't got into the house quick enough, which they weren't a fan of, the police weren't a fan of, because obviously he's wasting their fucking time. And when all of this got released, it was just like a huge embarrassment on Onision's part. But again, I low-key feel like maybe that was done as a troll. So Chris Hansen has now been in contact with the FBI, who have started investigating Onision for child pornography charges and child grooming charges, which is definitely a step in the right direction. On top of the Chris Hansen videos, there is another YouTuber who's made a claim to fame through a very popular Onision series on his channel, and that YouTuber's name is Repzion. Now, a lot of YouTubers make videos about Onision because he's crazy, he's a crazy person, he's doing terrible things, he's quite harmful to society. But Onision has decided to single out Repzion and actually take him to court. He tried to sue him for slander. Now, this court fiasco was exactly that, a fucking fiasco. It was crazy. Onision showed up to court wearing a bulletproof vest and just looking really, really sloppy and unkempt and very unprofessional. And basically, he told the judge that he no longer wanted to pursue these slander charges against Repzion because he had sought legal advice elsewhere and decided that there was another means of tackling the issue, and so he decided he would do that instead.
As I consulted an attorney, they indicated that there are different options that would be more effective, and so I decided that it would be best if I withdrew from this and move forward with other actions. Okay.
Basically wasting the court's time and everyone else's time. It also came out that he tried to have Chris Hansen served as well, but he served the wrong Chris Hansen. So that Chris Hansen didn't show up because he's like, bro, that's not me. All they got out of it was Onision being memed. In the meantime, Onision's Patreon, which is basically a website designed for creators, it's for fans to get closer access to them, they get exclusive content, whatever, but you do have to pay for like a subscription. Onision's Patreon was deleted, and it was deleted because Onision doxed someone. He actually sent out their phone number, which is considered doxing, which is against Patreon's rules, and so they just fucking offed him off the site. And this was a huge source of income for Onision, so this hit hard, and this led to a string of videos where Onision would pretend he was having a meltdown.
We're gonna disable his Patreon. Wow. Wow, you would really do that. You would really do that! You tried to do the FBI, didn't work! You tried to do the police, didn't work! So instead, you resort to the paycheck!
Where he would basically adapt to the Joker persona and just pretend he was having meltdowns, basically. Unfortunately, because he's such a fucking troll, but I don't think a lot of people realize he's as much of a troll as he is, and so a lot of people believed that he was really having a meltdown, despite him literally like just crying and sobbing and weeping and retching, almost throwing up, ripping his clothes off, pouring kombucha over his head.
You like kombucha? I love kombucha!
Running around a swamp in his backyard, like just weird shit. And that got a lot of attention until his tiny little like view climb declined again. And now he's no longer posting those weird meltdown videos. He's back to posting his regular content. I know that this video was hella fucking long, and I'm sorry for that. And if you've made it this far, fucking thank you and good on you. I hope you're mentally okay after hearing all of this fucking fuckery. I'm sure there's going to be more to the Onision saga in the coming months. So if you'd like me to cover any more of the Onision story, let me know in the comments down below. I'd be more than happy to pursue this further if he does eventually get charged, but we'll have to see what happens with that. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you feel like it. I would really appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe so that you can see all my new videos. I post every single Thursday all about true crime, and I'd love to have you be a part of it. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments down below. Do you think that Onision is like actually fucked in the head, or do you think he's just a massive troll? And what do you think about Kai? Do you think Kai is equally as to blame as Onision is, or do you think Kai is more of a victim in this scenario? Let me know in the comments down below, or you can head over to my Facebook, which is skyweb with 3 B's, and let me know there. Make sure you guys are being safe out there. Do not fly out to stinky older YouTubers' houses. I just know he's stinky. Don't tattoo boys' names on you, and most importantly, don't follow or support Onision, Onion Boy, Mr. Onion, Fuckwit Jackson. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!